Recently at Nicol and Co, we have celebrated 15 years as a business, and we thought it'd be amazing to bring the founder, CEO, Mr. Matt Nicol, and discuss all things Nicol and Co related. How are you today?
I'm okay. Slight change of plan. Slightly different seating arrangement, but thank you for hosting. Yeah.
That's okay. Thanks for being here. Before we talk about obviously the future, where Nicol and Co is now, I kind of wanted to go back to the past and talk about your childhood and how school was for you. And was there any key points in your childhood that kind of made you think, right, this is what I'm going to do?
Right, way back. And we kind of moved around a little bit. So I was born in Croydon. Lived there, and then West Sussex, and we went up to Staffordshire, lived there till about 1998. That's kind of like my memory years, is in terms of like being at the school and stuff like that. So left there in year 8 and moved to Droitwich. Around that kind of time I was a footballer. I used to enjoy playing football, used to do roller hockey, used to play rugby. I actually got into rugby in my last year at the school that I was at. And then we moved to Droitwich, and we moved to Droitwich because my dad was working in Birmingham, made an easier commute to come from the south up to Birmingham as opposed to coming from the north. And yeah, since then, 98, I was kind of like, school years were great, still skating, still like playing rugby, stopped playing football. Had a really kind of good school that I was at, Droitwich High. I'm involved with them now as a governor, or a supporting role to the governors. And I'm not sure if there was a turning point in my life. I finished school, did my normal GCSEs, 7 Cs, 3 Bs and a D, so nothing amazing, but kind of got to the end of that point, and I went on to sixth form for a couple of months, decided sixth form wasn't for me, went off and worked at Purdeswell Leisure Centre as a rec assistant, and I was like back out there earning, which was quite nice. I had a scooter because I was quite mobile, I can get around and stuff like that. But I guess I took a role then. I'd been working as like a pot wash and all those kind of bits and pieces. I think I'd always wanted to earn money, like my own money. But I worked at Purdeswell for a period of time, and then I thought, no, do you know what? I need to do something with my life, and I take nothing away from working there, but I thought I wanted to be a fireman. So did a national diploma in public services at Worcester Tech. Great 2-year course. Met some very good friends that I still have as friends today, and kind of came to the point where I actually started having to apply for those jobs. Droitwich Fire Station, they had like 52 people applying for every single job that was going, so I realised that I wasn't quite cut out to get that role. There was a lot of people a lot older than me with a lot more experience and fitness probably. So at that point I went and worked for my old man and worked on the driving range.
Nice.
And I think that's where I kind of got into property. So the formulative years, like the young years, didn't really think property was for me, didn't know it was going to be where I ended up. I was just a school kid like anyone else, just trying to work my way through life.
Yeah, exactly. Very nice. Well, now you have a business.
Yes, indeed.
Very successful. I wanted to ask, so what gap in the market did you aim to fill when you decided to start Nicol and Co?
So I guess the point at which I opened Nicol and Co, the market had turned around a little bit. It had been a good time for me to learn the industry. I started 5 years prior, so I started off as a junior, had worked kind of through the ranks for a company, was running their office for them during the recession. Yeah. And the market seemed to turn back on. And I suppose the gap in the market I felt I had was, I was a Droitwich lad, obviously born other places, but like I'd been living in Droitwich for a long period of time. And I felt that kind of going back to Droitwich was going to do good things for me, because I went to the school there, played rugby there, and a lot of my friends had parents who obviously had houses. So I wouldn't have thought there was a kind of a gap that I hit for straight away, other than the fact I was going to be a little bit more modern than the others. Yeah. Great agents, great reputations, very, very strong businesses, but I knew I could do it my own way. I didn't have to do it some systematic way that others were kind of fixed into. I could do it my own way, and using social media from the outset probably was one of our best things that I could have done at that time, and had great support from local people as well.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. As a CEO, as a leader, as someone who is an influential person in this business, obviously you have to have a great mindset, strong leader. Is it something that you upkeep yourself? Is it something you're naturally gifted with, or is it something you work on actively?
As you probably know, having worked for me for a little while, I'm never kind of set in my way that I've got where I want to get to. I feel like there's still places to go. And I guess my kind of learning journey, if that's okay, with kind of mindset and stuff like that, is looking into things like podcasts and just taking inspiration from other people. So Founders is a podcast which I listen to. A guy called Dave Senra basically reads through the autobiographies of former entrepreneurs, and so you can hear from like the Michael Jordans, the Kobes, and also then the Bill Gates and all those types of people. And I kind of take some inspiration from that. I think I've got a wife and kids, I need to, fend for us. So I need to make sure we've got the income coming in, all those bits and pieces. But I don't feel like there's a day where I am not motivated to go and do work. I feel like there's days where I'm needed more than others. There's been some trying times in our career with the business, with like COVID and stuff like that. I actually feel that those moments where the pressure's really on the company, I feel like I'm better. I've used to play rugby, as I mentioned, and I kind of found that in the tough games I could pull out results, I can get the guys going. So yeah, I guess from a mindset, mental health point of view, the tougher the better. I enjoy it. I need to be busy. I can't be sat around doing nothing. And I guess things like having good peers, having good staff, that you kind of see the hard work that I've put into them is starting to pay back. It's not taking much of me anymore. The guys can do it without me sometimes. So it's quite motivating to keep doing it that way. Yeah.
And as you've touched on, obviously you've kind of stepped back now that you've got Dan involved as your sales director.
Yeah.
Sales director.
Yeah.
How have you found that aspect of your day-to-day life, kind of stepping away from the business? Have you found it difficult, or have you managed to keep yourself busy? Or
I've definitely managed to keep myself busy, but doing other things that I enjoy. So people probably know that I've got quite a lot of kind of input in what's going on in the Droitwich community at the moment. So I've got a role as the place board chairman, and bringing Dan in was like the chance for me to do that. I'd kind of signposted to Dan months prior that I was planning to do this, because we obviously wanted to make sure that it was something that he wanted. He joined us as a negotiator. He'd really kind of like worked through the ranks with us, and it felt like his career progression deserved it. He's been fantastic, and when you bring in someone like that to take a role like that, you're kind of leaving a bit of your team behind, because you're passing that experience to someone else. But there couldn't be a better guy for the job, really. So having Dan probably has been a bit of an eye-opener to the sales managers and those teams like Droitwich, Worcester and Malvern, because they probably got better contact from someone now than they were getting with me. I was probably trying to cram it all in, and that probably was actually not great for the business. So it was just about delegating some of that across to someone who definitely does it my way. Mr. Culture, I'd say he is, like the way that he communicates, the way that staff get on with him. He's got everyone's best interests at heart. He obviously knows how I do things because he's been with us for 5 years. So like he's got that kind of that Nicol and Co way of doing things. And in terms of what it's meant for me, it means that my days aren't as kind of like structured anymore. I still have all my appointments on the repeat diary so people can see where I am. That still happens, which is for me, I think probably the end goal, to get away from that diary system, which for people watching and listening to this, they won't understand what the repeat diary is. But we've got a CRM. It's our kind of where our properties are listed, where our adverts are kind of made out of. The viewing appointments are all booked in, and everything that I ever do gets booked into there, so people know where I'm meant to be. But I want to get away from being in that repeat diary. It'll be a weird thing, but like that's where I kind of want to get to. But my days are full. It's full doing other things. It might be right now I want to get a banking hub in Droitwich, which, that's no benefit to Nicol and Co, if I'm honest. We don't do physical banking, but for the people of Droitwich, there's 26,500 people living in Droitwich. That would be a big impact. We've only got one bank left. Lloyds are about to close. Santander are the last one standing. Like that's not good enough for a community like we've got. And also the aging demographic that we've got, people need to go into these places. There's a kiosk in the post office, but it's just not what we need. So for me, like I said earlier, I prefer challenges. That's a challenge. How do I get cash access to change their mind on? They did an early assessment on us back in 2021. Back then we would have had 3 or 4 banks. They said you don't need another banking, you don't need a banking hub. 3 or 4 years on, we don't have HSBC, we've got Lloyds closing, we've only got Santander left. We now need a banking hub. So chuck me into that one, I'll have a go.
Nice. And you've also done some work surrounding the Lido.
Oh, yeah.
Droitwich Spa.
Yeah.
Do you want to delve into that a bit more and discuss about what you've been doing?
Yeah, definitely. So this is, again, filling my time. This has been a really exciting project. So my role as the place board chairman means that I'm with a group of people who've all got a very vested interest in what is happening in Droitwich. There's a prospectus that we're following that was produced in 2022, and it talks about like the assets that Droitwich have, how we can get better footfall, how we can improve the economy, why people would want to come and visit, where they could stay, and all those bits and pieces. And the Lido, Droitwich Lido Park itself has got the Lido pool in it. It's like an open air swimming pool with an attached building. It's a Art Deco dilapidated building. It's got some plant stuff in there that's for the pool itself. And it was just prior to my joining the place board that the group, because they'd been going for about a year before, had instructed Gleed and One Creative to come up with a feasibility study on what could be done with that asset. It's a great idea. I can take no credit for it at that point, but it was a great idea because there was this amazing asset in a place that everyone loves to go to that just wasn't being used. And the big driver, I think, behind it is that we want it to be used all year round. Open water swimming in the last year has become more popular. In the last 3 years, it's really grown. But there's a lovely cafe. It's a great central location, and it could be used more often. So basically, Glees and One Creative came up with 3 concepts, 3 options. And we reviewed those as a group ourselves, and we looked at kind of what the pros and cons were to each of these options, budget and cost being one of them. And we consulted with Wychhaven, because Wychhaven's money that we're using, it's not going to be our own place board money that we're spending on this, other than the feasibility study. But we spoke to Wychhaven, we kind of started to kind of structure what we thought the place needed. And then the discussion came about that Sobs, who are Save Our Brine Baths in Droitwich, they'd been pushing for a brine pool, and really desperately been working towards getting a brine pool in Droitwich Spa again, because it used to have them before. And when we started consulting with them, we realised that actually the whole layout and plan needed to tweak and change, because that had to be one of the things we put back in. So the jewel in the crown, really, like to have the Lido being used all year round is amazing, but to bring brine back to Droitwich, which was one of the reasons that everyone knows about us, like it's one of the reasons people used to come in the first place. So now the Lido project's in a consultation process. We did an event on Friday, I don't know when this will go out, but we did an event on one of the Fridays in the library at Droitwich, where we basically invited local residents to come and see the plans, give us their feedback, and really just to see if they supported the idea, because Wychhaven are considering spending £8 million on this project, but they're not going to do that unless Droitwich Spa really says that they're behind it, or people that have been to Droitwich are behind it. Worcestershire. So in terms of inclusions, it would be a brine pool, there'll be salt therapy rooms, there'll be more kind of therapy rooms. There'll also be a 60 to 80 cover bistro restaurant on the first floor, which would mean that hopefully if we get the right restaurateur in there, we can kind of bring a good bit of footfall. I saw on MasterChef last night, there's a chap called Dan that went to Witton School who did an amazing jacket potato. He might be someone we could approach, but we want that to be a destination that people want to come to. So we're going to be quite selective about who we'd like to speak to about being the future person that will be in that location. The pool itself is staying exactly the same shape and size it is. We're going to be moving the free to use splash pad, which is at the bottom of the Lido at the moment. That's going to go over by the tennis courts, closer to all the kids' kind of facilities in the playground. And as a result, we get about another third in terms of space for the existing Lido. So that's going to be splash pads, more seating areas, places for the sun and also for the shade. Owl's Calf is not going. Owl's Calf's moving further down, again, down the curtilage of the place, and that's going to be basically hopefully larger than it was previously, a cafe that's going to be able to service the park like it has been. That came across really clearly on the Friday when I was in that consultation at the library, that is a community place. Everyone goes there, everyone's got great things to say about that place. So we know, Wychhaven know, that we want to make sure that stays as a stable. But where Little Owl's Calf was, it frees up that space for where we can now put the brine pool. So that's going to be the brine experience. And as I said, if we'd not been so open to consulting and having this kind of communication flow, we probably could have ended up something that we wouldn't be quite so proud of. But now we've got it with everything that we were really after. We are really excited about it. So the consultation goes to the 15th of December. Don't know when this will go out. Might still have time if people haven't commented, they can. But once that consultation's finished, it then goes in front of the exec board of Wychhaven to confirm that they are willing to commit the finances that it needs. Then it'll be like a 12-month process. Unfortunately, these things take time. I've had to learn this myself. It'll be a 12-month process to get the planning, and then it'll probably be a 12-month build process. So it might not be one for 2025 that would actually be able to kind of use all of the facilities, but certainly 26, 27, we'll hopefully be able to see the benefits of it.
Very nice. Well, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, indeed.
It gets brought up and we can do some what's coming to market videos there.
Yes, indeed.
I wanted to kind of go back and talk about Nicol and Co as a business and the culture you've created and the workspace you have, because you've now got 40 employees now?
Yeah, 41, I think.
41,
yeah.
So you've built up from nothing, from the very beginning. I wanted to ask, what were you aiming for with the culture of the business? What did you want to create? Obviously, you touched on it with Dan, having that culture. What is the Nicol and Co culture? I think
it's summed up, like when you speak to people like the company and stuff like that, the visions and values are often the founder, like they're often how the founder ticks. Yeah. So we do have a clear kind of memorable for the right reasons approach. And it's exactly what I used to be when I was an agent on my own. So when I set up on my own, it was easy because I dealt with everything. I was putting the properties online myself. I was putting the window cards together. I'd make sure the photos were the way I wanted, advertising in the paper myself, and all the interactions were me. I guess what I wanted whenever I've tried to kind of grow the business, and like you say, 41 staff, I feel like it's a fantastic size now. I want that interaction still to be like it's me. Mm-hmm. And that's not like I want clones of me, but I just want it to still be memorable for the right reasons. We don't get it right every time, and I don't get it right every time, but I think that kind of that feeling that we've done something a little bit better than others.
Personal.
It is personal. Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very stressful process. You haven't bought a house yet, but wait until you do. Like it's a stressful process. And having been through it myself and like understanding it helps. And staff that have kind of gone through the purchase process understand as well. When someone's a bit short on the phone, that's because they're really, really stressed. And we as a business can help with those situations. We can solve so many problems that most agents haven't got the resource to do it. Some one-man bands that don't have the extra kind of staff to be able to deal with those things. They don't have a Kat or a Chloe. They don't have a senior sales progression person that's dealing with it for them. The culture now, it feels like it's momentum. Kind of, I've read books where they talk about a flywheel. Flywheel's hard to get going, but once you've got it going, it's really easy, and then it kind of just keeps rolling. And there might be little bits that I need to come in and do. So my tips in the morning or an event or something like that, there might be little bits that I need to do just to make sure it is still spinning. But actually, I think the staff are probably proud that we aren't just a business that makes a lot of money from selling houses or just doing lettings. We actually give loads back to our community. Yeah. You know, they all believe in that. I think they all see the benefits of our business doing what we do, because we do give quite a lot back. We're having an impact in our areas, you know, wherever it might be sports days in Malvern, it could be things that we're doing in Worcester, the tree festivals, all these bits, like we're doing things back in our community. And I think they feel like it's got a purpose to it. You know, it's got a reason to come in. It's got great momentum, like with social media, the things that you girls are doing, like the team. It's fantastic to kind of see. And I kind of pinch myself sometimes because 15 years ago I would have been slogging it out right now. These were the first couple of months of setting up. I would have been working 6 days a week and probably long days to make it happen. And now it feels like I can kind of look back and like reflect on it was all worth it. Like it was a slog, but it was all worth it. Yeah, and there's nothing you change going back. I don't know that there would, because I've probably learned and got better because of the things that have happened. So there's been a few things that have happened in the past that I might have invested in things, or I might have done things that I probably wouldn't do again. But if I hadn't, I wouldn't have learned. Like I probably kind of failed, but I probably learned as a result of it. So no, I'm really, really pleased. Like my humble beginnings, the little office that I had in St Andrew Street was absolutely perfect for me. It was tiny. The tree at the back dropped berries, so we had to literally like scrape our feet every time we went out of the office. You wouldn't have seen any of this. So if, like, you now see the big 226 Worcester Road office that we have, and you know the ones that we got here in Worcester and the one that we got in Malvern, like it's all come as a result of where it all began. So no, it's good. Definitely. And I wanted to ask, obviously we have such an amazing team, you have such great staff members, and I think it's a testament to you as like a boss that you give our staff like the space to kind of flourish and really grow. But I wanted to ask, when you are or were hiring, what were the qualities that you would think, right, this is what I need in a team member, this is important, this could be a transferable skill, or So our value's likeable. Mm-hmm. I think likeable is the first word that always comes to mind. Yeah. I think as long as people, they don't have to have the skill at the beginning, but as long as they've got the right kind of likability, and as long as they've got the right kind of passion for the role, then I think the rest can be taught. And that's where it is now. Like I feel like I can step away from certain things because the teaching's been done. Mm-hmm. They definitely want the role, like they definitely want to do the job they're doing. So it just works on its own. So, but those values, likable, dedicated, energetic, influential. I think influential is a tricky one because we can have influence in our market. We can have influence in our communities. That's one of the things that we do. Successful is obviously the last one, but when someone joins here, they might not be successful. They might be starting out. So if they've got energy, likability, and they're dedicated,
those are the main
we can do the rest. We can do the rest. And again, when I spent the time kind of putting together our values, our vision, our 10-year target, our 5-year goals, our plans, and all those bits and pieces, it was a really good couple of days away from the office to go. And I think we're probably about 10 years in then. We are here. Where do we want to be in 10 years' time? And also, what do we want to make sure our staff all look like? And our retention rate of staff has been superb. We've had years gone by where it wasn't quite so good. But it's nice to have the team that we have. I'm sure there'll be times where people want to move on and they'll get tapped up and all those bits and pieces. I hate it when it happens, but those things will happen to me again. But yeah, it's a really, really positive space to be in at the moment, I think. Yeah,
definitely. I wanted to ask, what do you believe is the secret to the success of your business? We've kind of touched on it with kind of things you do differently compared to others. You mentioned your social media and kind of the ethics and values behind it. But what do you believe has been the success?
That's probably one of the toughest questions I'll ever be asked. So if I was going to put it down to a few things, I think community.
Yeah.
Probably a word we use quite a lot in this business, which I'm proud that we can. I think people realise that we are more than just an estate agency business. Estate agency, you won't remember Harry Enfield sketch shows, but estate agency used to get some of the toughest kind of stick in terms of the performance of what an agent does. They literally open a door, flick a light switch on and point out where the radiators are. That's the way that agents were deemed and termed. But I think that we probably, amongst many other agents up and down the country, we've probably revolutionised that a little bit because we're probably one of the industries that give most back to our community. We're so involved. So community's got to be some of it. I also think because of social media, and this isn't comfortable for you. Doing a podcast wasn't originally comfortable for me, but we are approachable because people can see the rawness of us. We're not perfect. We're not stars in Hollywood or anything like that. We're normal people making a living. And I think that's something that I kind of, there's a saying that I've kind of learned from my coach: know you, like you, trust you. So if they feel like they know us because we are very transparent, and approachable, hopefully they like us.
All over social media.
We are, but also the staff are doing that now as well, aren't they? And I know that there's positive impact to that because one of the chaps over in Malvern said, I was out and people spotted me and they said, I've seen you somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, it definitely works. And I think he was out on a night out, so he probably felt like a bit of a celeb for the night. But but that knowing you because you're kind of quite transparent and normal, and approachable, and someone that does want to give back and all those bits and pieces. Likeability is important, and as I said, know you, like you, trust you. Trust's the important bit because actually, when you're trying to do a property transaction, one person might do it every 10 years, whereas we're doing 470 a year. So we're involved in it. We're in the reads. We're doing quite a bit with it. So. I can't remember what the question was, but it started off with community anyway, and then it came back to social media. But I do think we're one of those quite transparent businesses that people probably feel like they know the business, even if they've never actually had a transaction with us.
To interject, I also think it's your ability to adapt to certain situations that you get put into. When I first started, obviously you were telling us about in the onboarding about how you dealt with COVID, and a lot of other agents probably struggled from that and are still struggling off the back of that. How would you say you kind of dealt with that whole pandemic situation? And
this is one of those things I don't have a regret. However, I made a decision that most businesses didn't make in the estate agency. So my son had shown symptoms. So actually, I had to go home and isolate 2 days before everyone actually was told to go home, which kind of almost knocked me off my foot a little bit, a bit of my foot in. But we kind of probably were starting to prepare that we knew this was coming. Now, the good thing is, as a company, we do invest in technology, and that's something that I think has stood the test of time. So we were in a position where we could, for the staff, we could take them all, allow them to all work from home. So they could hook onto an app on their phone, which basically meant the outbound calls going out with our phone number, not theirs. We had enough devices and we had all those bits and pieces. So fundamentally what we decided to do that most estate agents didn't do was keep our staff employed and working. I know the others kept their staff employed, but they used things like, I've forgotten the word.
Furlough?
They used the word, that's the one. most businesses out there did the furlough scheme, and I won't deny I did it for a few, because a photographer couldn't go out and take photos, and some staff that wanted to be with their daughters and children couldn't obviously be doing the job. But for the majority of the staff, we probably had about 30 staff at the time. I'd say 25 of them were still kind of employed and working, and I know those other people were still employed, but it was that kind of approach. Now, I communicate with other agents up and down the country, and I heard what they were doing. They were keeping a sales progressor on, they were keeping a sales manager on, they were keeping themselves on, and the rest were going to go onto that furlough scheme. And I don't know if it was just ruggedness or why I chose to keep them going, but actually I kind of thought it was the right time to do it, because we didn't know how long it was going to take. We thought it could have been a month, could have been 2, whatever. But during that time, we adapted the team quite significantly. We basically said to the squad, right, we're going to split you into 3 colours. We're going to do 11s every day. So your team colour, say purple, red or green, we're going to meet up at 11 o'clock and have a bit of a powwow in the morning. They'd all have their morning meetings. And then we also brought in things like PT sessions. So we hired the services of Sanders Fitness. They had a chap called Sean who did PT sessions. So there was a PT session at least once a week, sometimes twice if you're in the right team colour. And all of these things just kept the kind of the camaraderie, the culture. It probably brought the team together a little bit more, because they were probably hearing from others in the industry who weren't working. And I think the knock-on effect of not working during that time, I'm sure, it was the best weather we could have ever had. And the big thing obviously was hoping that your loved ones got through it and that the NHS could survive with everything that was going on. But the big thing that we found as a business kind of coming out the other side is the guys were just desperate to get back together. Obviously with social distancing, but desperate to get back in the same office. When we got back to that, and we were kind of lifted out the lockdown period, it was then like social distancing. We had the perspex screens. We had half a team in, half a team working from home. But because we've been so engaged with like having the right technology that supports the business, it just gave us a massive advantage. So I think for my staff's kind of own kind of like mental health and motivation, it was an important pivotal time to have spent the money on that. I was very transparent with them. It was a period of time where, not weekly, but like fortnightly, when we knew that we weren't getting commission from completed sales because not many people could move in, I was just very transparent. We'd kind of squirreled enough away to be able to survive it. But I was just saying, like, right, guys, bank balance is here. If this carries on for another 2 months, we're going to struggle. We'll have to look at furlough for some. But like at the moment, we're good to go. We can keep going. And then the government gave out these 250 grand loans, like bounce back loans. We put it into a separate account. And this is probably, again, something that staff don't know, but I'm very proud of. We put it into a separate account. If it was needed, we were going to dip into it. But we kept it for the whole year and paid it straight back. We never touched it. And so for us to have gone through that period where we had a lack of income plus paid our staff, to then be gifted for a period of time just to help us out if we needed it, the 250k, we stuck that into a separate account, and to pay that back in a year's time, like from when we needed it or first given it, it was a real positive. And that's what I was kind of saying earlier. I think that's where like those tougher situations, they take a decision from someone. And I've got great support. My father works in the business. He's group finance director. He's been with us for 8 years. He's obviously a great sounding board for me anyway, but someone needs to make the decision. And I don't mind making that decision if it needs to be made. And won't always get it right, but yeah, on that occasion. And those other businesses that chose to furlough their staff, I'm sure that came out fighting, but I think for the staff it was hard to kind of get back into work mode straight away, whereas ours were like really keen to get going because they'd been speaking to all these people anyway. They knew on their database. So just to explain, what did we do when we couldn't do viewings? We had a database of over 25,000 people. All I said to the staff is, it's phone calls. You're just going to phone and chat to people because they may have a property need in the next 10 years, which obviously they'll think of you nicely. But also there might be some people who are living on their own right now and all they've got to keep them company is TV. So just give them a call. If you need to be on the phone for them for half an hour, just seeing how they're feeling, have they got any anxieties or any issues, so be it. And I think from the staff point of view, that was rewarding because probably from them, it was actually kind of keeping their days flowing as well.
Keeping them busy.
It was. It was. And yeah, I mean, it's a distant memory now. People kind of work out what year it was based on when COVID was. But it was definitely for us as a business, probably quite a pivotal point. It was actually when I announced our blueprint to the staff as well. So our blueprint is a document, it, Soph, but to explain for others, it's a 2-sided document. It's based on a book by Gino Wickman called Traction. And it really does make you look at your vision, your values, your 10-year target, your marketing strategy and all those bits and pieces. But I attended a 2-day away sesh with my dad and former ops director Neil, and we'd basically spent those 2 days working out this document, and lo and behold, a month later we were in a lockdown when all staff didn't know what direction we were heading, and I was able to say, maybe fluked it a little bit, fortunate to have to do this, but I was like, we have a plan. This is our plan, and I don't know what we're doing in the next 6 weeks because no one does. The government's on it, not us. But this is where we're going to go, and it worked.
Skills.
Yeah,
leadership skills.
Hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of, as a personal question, obviously, I know after COVID, the housing market boomed because obviously everyone was like, I need to move, I need to get away. How did you deal with that afterwards with all the restrictions? So obviously the social distancing and kind of viewings of people's houses, and it was mixing families and stuff like that. How did you guys? Yeah,
I think we may have been seen to be a little bit more sensitive than other agents, because I think some other agents didn't know how to say no to people. The big thing for us was ultimately we didn't want the staff to get COVID. So our main driver was, if we can keep our staff away from getting COVID, we're doing a good job. That's kind of why we did the split teams, because we knew obviously there was chances. But one of the things that I did, I'd sourced a technology from Australia called Gavel. And Gavel is like a live stream platform. So we bought it into the UK. It was literally, as the lockdown was coming to an end, in terms we were able to get back into work, we'd signed the paperwork, we tested it, it was working. And it meant that basically if there was, say, 20 people wanting to view a house, which is fairly typical to buy or let, if there's 20 people that wanted to view a house, there's no point in me putting a staff member in there with all their PPE, but then being there for 3 hours coming into contact with this many different families. So what we did was, we did a live stream of the property. Those 20 people that wanted to essentially see the property join us on the live stream. So physically they didn't have to leave their home. They weren't coming into contact with people they didn't want to or shouldn't have, and they all watched the live stream. After the live stream ended, they then had the opportunity, if they're in a proceedable position, to book in a viewing. But what you found was that list of 20 cut down to a list of 10. And then that list of 10, when you actually tried to find out if they were in a proceedable position, cut down to a group of 4. So you did 4 viewings rather than saying yes to 20, you just did 4 viewings. And you could then manage those a little bit easier. And we were doing tests, and we had the thermometer guns and all those bits and pieces, all the PPE being worn. I did a little video for the staff, so the staff knew how to treat properties, because we could have been in your parents' home as an example. We could have been doing a view on your parents' home. So it's not just about us wearing PPE and the client wearing PPE. Anything that we touch needs to be cleaned at the end. There's a lot of work that went into it. But that technology, that live stream technology, made a massive difference. And we still use it now on lettings, because we still do have 20, 30 people that want to go and see everything that we list. So you don't want to do that many viewings for one person to rent it. You need to kind of make it available for people without making them all travel.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, is learning when to say no.
Yes. Yeah, well, to be honest, we as a business, we do say no to a few things. And I think it's having the conviction to know that you're doing it for the right reasons. We weren't trying to be awkward with people. We probably saved a lot of people getting sick, if I'm honest with you, because we were that agent that wouldn't do it. And other agents, if they chose to do it a different way because they didn't have the technology or they didn't kind of have the know-how, that's on them. But at least we could sleep at night knowing that we were doing what we could to keep everyone safe.
Yeah, exactly. The best you can.
Best we could, yeah, in the circumstances.
Exactly. So we've spoken about, obviously, Nicol and Co's past, Nicol and Co's present, and I wanted to touch on the future. You mentioned it in your blueprints and your plans. What are your kind of end goals? You also mentioned about you want to kind of step away even further. Do you want to franchise any more branches?
No, well, I kind of said to the guys that big isn't beautiful to me. I've seen great businesses get bigger than me, and then unfortunately in a tough time go to having no offices at all. So I think 3 offices in the locations that we've picked is important. They're good in their areas. I think for me personally, I'm on that kind of journey now. I'm 41 very soon, and by this time this has gone out, I will be 41, and I kind of feel like I'm halfway through where I want to be. And I don't know that means that I need to be slogging every single day at Nicol and Co going forward, because I have got such an amazing team, and we were obviously all driving towards the same result. So I think where I kind of see myself is I would like to do more in the area. So people came over in the library consultation. They went, "Are you going for an MP job or something like that?" I genuinely, I wouldn't be against it. So that's a bit of an exclusive. I wouldn't be against it, because as I did in a recent public speaking event at the Civic Society in Droitwich, the business is for me legacy. Like it's work, and I've got 2 kids. If they want to kind of jump in when they're older, I'm all for that. But the business is working. What I feel like I can do is probably have a better impact now in areas that aren't a state agency. I can coach another member of staff. I could train another business to get set up or whatever. But I'd like to have probably a bit more impact in my community. I'm loving going abroad. I'm loving going over to America and learning how others are doing it, because there isn't a great system there, and there isn't an amazing system here in terms of the way the whole conveyancing works. But there's lessons to be learned. And actually, it kind of is a bit of an exclusive, but I kind of probably want a bit of ownership of the business to go into the hands of the staff. So it's nothing quick, like nothing's set in stone yet, but I feel like the team that we have are the future of the company. I still have my name above the door, and I'll still have massive involvement, but I'd like there to be that ownership more than just being being paid a salary. I'd like there to be some more ownership in the staff, and that's quite exciting, because I feel completely at comfort with that. Like I'm not precious about my shareholdings or my ownership and all that kind of stuff. Like I feel like it would be in good hands if that was the case going forward. So it's weird. I'm like I do feel like a young 41-year-old, but I feel like there's so much more I can do. And listening to things like podcasts with founders and stuff like that, you kind of hear the KFC guy was 60 odd before he set it up, and Warren Buffett was like 38 before he became, as he is now, Berkshire Hathaway's, and he's the richest man in the world. Like this age now is kind of like go time. It's weird. Like I've worked hard, but like now it's like go again. That's kind of where I feel like I'm at.
And where do you want to go again? You obviously, I know you want to go more into like the marketing side of things. Do you want to speak about?
I feel like there's a lot of people out there that just need a bit of support when it comes to marketing. There's a lot of amazing local businesses where the business owner's just so nervous to actually put themselves out there and be vulnerable.
Because it takes a lot.
It does. And actually, I think the success of doing it is once you've seen it work, then you're like, God, why didn't I do it sooner? But like it does. And so, you've pushed staff into areas that they wouldn't normally be, but actually the positive impact of some of the videos that you guys are producing. But look, I'm always going to want to be busy, and I don't know that needs me to be coming in daily into the office. But if I can support someone and they need a bit of marketing advice, if it's kind of ideas that we put together that are working for us. We do have that company, In-House Design and Marketing, which is the bit you're referencing. So
yes.
It allows us, and it always has allowed us, to kind of support other developers, businesses, anything really, like multi kind of businesses out there with their kind of marketing plans. So from a social media point of view, from CGIs, from brochures, from videography, all of that kind of stuff. And that for me, I want to see that to be a real success. We kind of secretly using it for ourselves really at the moment, like it's part of our success.
Testing phase.
Well, and let's be honest, there's a lot of businesses that are out there looking at us going, I wish we could do that, I want to do that. So we're probably learning ourselves on how to do it right, which is obviously again a success I feel that we've got, but we can make it available to others.
And I feel like one good thing obviously out of having this company is a lot of people are also scared to invest in social media. Kind of people have that old vision of like, well, it's just a bit of fun, it's not a real job. It is. You're booked and busy, you're getting things out, you're getting your name out there, and it's building the brand, I guess, isn't it?
And it'll be a couple of years now since we employed Cess.
Virtual assistant.
Yeah, our virtual assistant Cess. So that again, nothing original from my point of view, but just willing to learn from others. And I learned from my real estate friends and coach in America that actually you can't do it all yourself.
No.
And so Cess, who will be editing this for us and produces a lot of our amazing content, like she's a massive part of this business.
Yeah.
And going back to your point, like it is an investment, marketing manager, yourself, social exec, and also having Cess as well. Like it's a full squad and it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
I know you work very hard to keep up and deliver everything that you're delivering, and obviously in a structured approach. But businesses out there, they might not be able to afford it. They might not be able to afford not to do it as well. It's that kind of that balance of you're never going to know how much you need to kind of dedicate to a salary or whatever. But if your revenue increased by 20%, 80% as a result of doing something like this, it's worth doing.
Exactly. Loads of small businesses are popping up now over TikTok and Instagram just through posting their day-to-day life, which obviously you just have to be a bit more mindful of what you film and when you post it. But other than that, it's...
But we know like some of our best performing posts are just raw and authentic. So James, lettings manager James, finally persuaded him to set up his own Instagram account. Lettings writer James, if anyone wants to find it. And he at home the other day filmed about the renters reform.
Yeah.
And this is an important thing that's going to come in for landlords. And because we've been pushing him, he did. He sat down at home and he recorded it, and it was superb, absolutely brilliant. You know, he's probably just had tea, probably just put the kids to bed. but actually, what's he been able to do? He's been able to help a load of clients or potential future clients with the service that he has and all the knowledge that he has upstairs. So there'll be people out there at the moment that have got a business that they, on a daily basis, are making changes to someone else's life, improving their things, fixing problems. And if they just communicated that, even if it was just a phone at home, like recording, they would definitely start to have a positive impact. And we know, like, we get a bit locked into the metrics and the numbers. It doesn't matter, does it?
No, it doesn't.
No. And the amount of kind of anecdotal feedback I'm getting at the moment from staff saying, oh, we called you out because we've seen what's come into the market. Like, we now know that you've got houses coming to the market that we're interested in, but actually we want to be on that video ourselves.
Yeah.
And we want to see one of those reels on our house. So our job is selling houses, and all the hard work goes in once we've agreed the sale, the sales progression, all those bits and pieces. But the social media is bringing us in front of so many more people. So
it's the exposure, isn't it?
It is.
And I think it's good because obviously we kind of touched on it before, but there is that barrier, like almost a personal barrier as well, if it is a one-man band of, oh, I don't want to put myself out there. What will other people think of me? And would you have advice on people who are struggling to get in front of the camera or put themselves out there, I guess?
I won't swear because there's a swear jar over in Malvern, but JFDI, just something, do it. Would be the words, and actually I think it is. It's in your head. It's not. You're not too busy because it doesn't take 2 minutes to do it, and you don't need to have a studio. we didn't have a studio up until like a year ago. Like, so we've been going for 15 years, and now we have something like this with the lights and the cameras and all that kind of stuff. But if you go back to like the original kind of videos that I would have put out, I used to put a post on social media with a property that I'd sold with Kapow written on it. That was my thing. Hashtag Kapow. That was how I began. And there'll be people that watch this that go, yeah, remember those things? They were annoying. But actually, I think it's about that. Don't have any excuses. Literally just go, I'm going to do it anyway. And just keep going. And consistency is probably the thing, because you might not find with your first post that it resonates, but that's because algorithms and social media don't really kind of expect it coming from you. So once people do start to watch it, it will start to build. And some of the best things that we've kind of done, like they were low budget, you know, me and you, ad lib, sitting in a car, nicking someone else's reel. It's those little bits that kind of just give us that little bit more exposure. So if there is any small business owner out there, like, you can't afford not to. It's going to be a lot cheaper than anything else out there. It's much cheaper than a marketing campaign. It's much cheaper than flyer drops. It's much cheaper than newspaper adverts. And actually, your personality will come across. And again, go back to that know you, like you, trust you. The more often you do it, without being like 6 times a day, but the more often you do it,
we get used to it.
You'll get used to it, but also clients will start to look out for it as well.
Like that. I think one thing for me personally that I've learned in this business, which I love that you guys kind of implement, is done beats perfect. I love that phrase. I've taken it on board in my personal life.
Good.
It's really resonated with me, and I think it would be some great advice for other business as well.
You're the expert when it comes to that stuff. So yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we sometimes procrastinate and beat ourselves up, or we have in the past beaten ourselves up over things that we just should have posted.
Yeah.
And by the time we post it, we've lost the chance because it's been and gone, or another agent's done it or whatever. So, I think as we kind of learning with our setups in here and stuff like that, you know, originally I left the lights on when me and James were in here, and the lighting was appalling and all that kind of stuff. But that was still posted because James had a book coming out. It was still going to go out, and now no one can see, but we've got a good setup now. We've got all the lights, new cameras, and everything's new mics, everything. Someone who knows how to work the mics as well. So it all makes a difference.
All it makes a difference. Okay, and the final question.
Yes.
It brings me to, what advice would you give to someone who wants to follow in your footsteps? It's quite an open-ended question, but I think, what would be your key takeaway points of the past 40 years?
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Remind me.
Don't remind you.
So I think if you apply yourself and work hard and you outwork the competition, you'll find success. I would also say that you're never too old to stop learning from others. And that could be the simplest. You know, it could be someone reaches out to me and wants to just run some questions by me. It could be they want to sit down with their grandparents and just go, right, how did you do business back when you were younger? That kind of stuff. Because you'll find, as you spend time with these other people, who have been there, gone through it, got the t-shirt often, like you'll just pick up on something that resonates with you. Yeah, I think I shared it the other day in the civic society meeting. Like, integrity is important. It's probably one of my important values, not just company but my own. But I think applying yourself and working hard will have an impact. And never stop learning. Like, podcasts are free, YouTube videos are free. I'm free if you want to message me. Like, yeah. Well, I'm actually having 9 holes with the chap later today. I think he's a former client of ours. He's asked if I'll mentor him, and I'm like, yeah, get our golf clubs. Let's go. Like, let's go and have a chat. And I don't know his business. I don't know where he's at in his life or anything. But I'm just open to that kind of conversation. And if I have time available, I'm available. Really, I'll support others as well with it. But I'm waffling, but going back to your point, I think if I was to speak to my younger self and start again, I would just say the work ethic's important. The way that I worked was probably my toughest bit at the beginning, and it was with a lot of support from family and friends. They realised I was, nose down, really working quite hard on it, but the spoils are there now. Like, it was worthwhile exercise to do it that way.
It's written in the stars.
Well, I don't think people would have kind of. Well, I certainly didn't see it being the way it is now, if I'm honest with you, 15 years ago. But I couldn't see it being anything else now. Like, and that's where you kind of got to keep focused, keep grounded. I could go and open another 3 shops. We could rinse and repeat this, but it wouldn't be us anymore. We'd lose a lot of our culture, the way that we work, and the kind of closeness that we are. So yeah. But Sophie, can I just say thank you for putting yourself out there today, because you've you've come no, not at all. You smashed it. No, you come in today wanting to film a podcast that I was going to be in with someone else, and actually you've taken the role superbly. That's it. Future presenter.
Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you. So, Just Local Podcast. There we are. Who's on next?